We know that reproduction is one of the fundamental characteristics exhibited by all living entities. Reproduction enables and ensures the continuity of species, generations after generation. It is a main feature of sustaining life on Earth. We know that asexual modes of reproduction are exhibited by unicellular organisms. But how do multicellular organisms reproduce? Sexual reproduction is a process by which most animals and plants reproduce. In many animals, it is the only mode of reproduction. This type of reproduction is seen in all multicellular organisms, and let us discuss the concept of sexual reproduction in this video. In this mode of reproduction, a new offspring is produced by the participation of two parents of opposite sex. Sexual reproduction is said to occur when two gametes fuses, that is, the organisms are produced by the fusion of two different gametes and therefore show genetic variations. Humans and nearly most other higher life forms exhibit sexual reproduction. So let us check some of the important features of sexual reproduction. It takes place by the fusion of male and female gametes. The offsprings are not identical in nature, which means they are unique. And the sexual reproduction is a slow process when compared to asexual reproduction. Offsprings are different from parents genetically and physically. Then how can we infer that living individuals can reproduce? All organisms have to reach a certain stage of growth and maturity in their life before they can reproduce sexually. That is the period when an individual attains sexual maturity. In most mammalian females or non-primates, the estrous cycle is a set of recurring physiological changes that are induced by reproductive hormones, whereas in monkeys, apes and humans, it is known as the menstrual cycle. There are animal species that can breed or mate throughout the year, and they are known as continuous breeders. And this category includes humans and apes. They can have a child at any time of the year, right? But do you know, senescence is a process by which a cell ages and permanently stops dividing but does not die. This period reduces the reproductive capacity of the individual. In plants, this reproductive phase is known as the vegetative phase. Many changes can be seen in the plants which indicate several features of reproduction. That brings us to examine certain events in sexual reproduction. So let us discuss the basic terms associated with sexual reproduction. Sexually reproducing species produce sex cells, often known as gametes. And these gametes are haploid structures that hold the chromosomes. Where are they seen? They are seen in nucleus. What is meant by ploidy? Ploidy tells us the number of sets of chromosomes that are found within the nucleus. There are haploid and diploid forms. So what is the difference between these two? Haploid cells are those that have a single set of chromosomes, while the diploid cells have two sets of chromosomes. A haploid parent produces gametes by mitotic division. For examples, the members of fungi, monera, algae and bryophytes. If the paternal body is diploid in nature, then the myocytes undergo reduction division or meiosis, which produce haploid gametes. The events of sexual reproduction follow a regular sequence since the process is complex and elaborate. These sequential events may be grouped into three distinct stages, namely pre-fertilization events, fertilization and post-fertilization events. So let us explore each event in depth. The pre-fertilization is a process that occurs before the actual fertilization, that is, the process before the fusion of gametes. So there are two events that occur before fertilization. The first is the gametogenesis, that is, the formation of male and female gametes, and the gamete transfer, that is, bringing the male and female gametes together for the development of the zygote. So, first, gametogenesis. It is a process of the formation of gametes. So, there are two types of gametes, right? Male and female gametes. So we can classify gametes as homogametes and heterogametes. Homogametes are one type of gametes that have the same shape and appearance. You can see both are looking same. Hence, we are not able to categorize the male and female gametes. They are also known by the term as isogametes. So, they are found in algae, rhizopus, etc. Heterogametes, on the other hand, exhibit different structures. In the case of human beings, the male gamete is called the anthrozoid or the sperm, and the female gamete is called the egg or the ovum. It is round in shape and it is a long, slender body. Let us now focus on the reproductive features of plants. The reproductive organs of a plant are flowers, and the flowers having either male or female reproductive structures are known as unisexual or dioecious or heterothallic structures. Examples include papaya and date palm. The unisexual male flower is staminate, that is bearing stamens, while the females are pistillate in nature. The flowers having both male and female reproductive structures are called a bisexual flower. It is also known as monoecious or homothallic structures. So some examples are hibiscus, coconuts, etc. Thus, plants may have both male and female reproductive structures in the same plant, or in other cases, they can be seen as indifferent plants. What about animals? Individuals of all species, either male or female, are unisexual. There are certain species which possess both the reproductive structures, and they are termed as bisexual organisms. So, examples are earthworms, sponges, tapeworms, and leeches. They are also termed as hermaphrodites. The next process after gametogenesis is gamete transfer. Male and female gametes need to be brought together to facilitate fertilization. Here, in most cases, the male gamete is motile while the female gamete is not. So, there are different techniques developed by certain levels of organisms. So, let us check each one of them. In the case of simple plants like algae, bryophytes and pteridophytes, the gametes are transferred through water. In the case of seed plants, pollen grains are the carriers of the male gametes and eggs are present in the ovule. Hence, pollen grains need to be transferred to the stigma to facilitate this fertilization. The pollen grains need the help of some agents of pollination to be transferred to the stigma. So, once pollen grain reaches the stigma, they germinate to produce the pollen tubes. The male gamete is then transferred to the ovule via pollen tube and ends up fertilizing the female gamete. In bisexual plants which show self-pollinations, anthers and stigma are close to each other. Hence, the transfer of pollen grains to the stigma is relatively easy in these plants. Now, let me ask you a question. How does gamete transfer occur in the case of higher animals? Here is the answer. The male gamete and the female gametes are produced in different bodies. The motile sperm should move towards the ovum. So, for the fusion of gametes, they need to get transferred, and this process is done through fertilization. Fertilization means the fusion of gametes, that is syngamy, results in the formation of a diploid zygote which develops into a new organism. However, parthenogenesis is different from syngamy. Recall that it is a reproductive process through the development of a single gamete without fertilization by a gamete of the opposite sex. Examples showing parthenogenesis include honeybees, ants, and birds. Based on the occurrence, so there are two types of fertilization. So let us check them. First is the external fertilization. It is a kind of fertilization which occurs outside the body of an organism. The next kind of fertilization is internal fertilization. It is a type of fertilization which occurs inside the body of the organism. So finally, let us discuss the post-fertilization events, that is, the events in sexual reproduction after the formation of the zygote. So, what is the zygote? It is a cell formed by the union of two gametes. The zygote undergoes meiosis to form the haploid spores, and these spores then grow into haploid individuals, and this leads to another process called embryogenesis. So, the process of development of an embryo from the zygote is called embryogenesis. During this process, the zygote undergoes mitosis and cell differentiation. On the basis of the development of the zygote, animals are categorized into oviparous and viviparous type. We categorize animals as oviparous when the embryo develops inside the egg but outside the body of the organism. Reptiles and birds belongs to this type. In the case of viviparous organisms, like you see on the screen, the embryo develops inside the body of an organism. A few examples are dogs, cats, cows, chimpanzees, and even human beings. It is very important to note that the survival rate of organisms is higher in viviparous animals. Next, we shall look at the development of zygotes in flowering plants. When pollen grains reaches the stigma of a flower's female structures, a pollen grain containing two male gametes makes its way into the ovary. So, one fertilizes with the egg, which becomes a diploid zygote. The other male gamete fuses with the polar nuclei to form an endosperm, and it will nourish the zygote as it matures into a seed. The ovary develops into a fruit which has a protective layer known as a pericarp. So far, we have discussed the sexual reproduction. We also explored different stages of fertilization. But what are the details of the reproduction process in flowering plants? Let's discover together. So now, let us summarize what we have learnt.
Manorama Horizon. Learning made simple.